Coming up on the Stifel Snow Show, we'll have the best from competition in snow sports across the globe in cross country. Jessie Diggins collected her first World Cup win of the year in Sweden. Alpine superstar Mikaela Shiffrin earned 2 podium finishes in Canada to continue the stellar start to her season. And Alex Hall showed his versatility with a big air World Cup win at the site of his Olympic slopestyle triumph in 2022. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Stifel Snow Show. I am Ahmed Fareed, joining you again this week, bringing you the latest from the world of skiing and snowboarding. The competition season is in full swing with athletes from around the world showcasing their talent both internationally and across the U.S. So here's a quick look at where the athletes of the U.S. ski and snowboard team are competing this winter all over the globe, in case you were wondering. The U.S. Freeski Team was in action in Beijing, China, while the women's alpine team made their way up to Tremblant, Canada. The snowboard cross team took to the snow in Les Deux Alpes, France. And elsewhere in Europe, the moguls and aerials team were in Ruka, Finland, and the cross-country skiing team was in Sweden. Now, we talked with cross-country skier Jessie Diggins last week. She continues to achieve milestones in her sport. She won the first ever Olympic cross-country skiing gold medal for the U.S. at the 2018 Olympic Winter Games in the team sprint with Keegan Randall. 4 years later, she added to her accolades by winning 2 medals in Beijing, becoming the most decorated American cross-country skier in history. And earlier this year, she won the 10-kilometer freestyle, the first individual world title in her sport by an American skier. Her achievements continue to set new standards in the world of cross-country skiing. This past weekend, in northern Sweden, the Stifel U.S. cross-country team continued on the World Cup circuit, and the women's squad put on an impressive display in the 10-kilometer freestyle race. Leading the charge was 3-time Olympic medalist Jessie Diggins. There she is, who's known for her toughness and gritty racing capabilities. She led consistently throughout the race, demonstrated her expertise in navigating the challenging turns, effectively maintaining her speed and preserving momentum throughout the course. She skied to the top of the podium with an impressive 23.1 second margin. In a testament to the strength of this women's team, 5 U.S. women finished in the top 30, including Rosie Brennan in 6th. Just 12 years ago, Diggins and her teammates secured the first ever World Cup relay medal for the U.S. And now the U.S. team is a force on the World Cup circuit, and they return to the starting line on Sunday for the relay race. Jessie Diggins led that group off skiing the first leg. She put the U.S. into a strong position as her teammate Rosie Brennan took over for the second leg. Brennan, a 2-time Olympian, kept the U.S. in strong position in her leg of the race, and Maine's Sophia Lockley took over from there. With no shortage of glitter and face paint, these 3 teammates and Julia Kern skied to 3rd place to put the U.S. on the podium. Then, in the men's relay race, Ben Ogden, Gus Schumacher, Scott Patterson, and Zandon McMullen skied to 5th. It was the first top 5 finish for the U.S. in World Cup competition in 20 years. Now, a lot of people want to be like Jessie. Now, why wouldn't you? Which means learning how to pack like her. She's mastered the art of storing her gear in the narrow hallway while in Sweden, like a real-life game of Tetris here, right? It goes without saying, you need teamwork as a member of the Stifel cross-country team, and that means tackling these type of challenges together on the road. Now, success for the Stifel U.S. ski team didn't stop with cross-country. It continued across the globe. The women's alpine team carried the momentum in Mount Tremblant. Mikaela Shiffrin, another Olympic gold medalist on skis, is already having an impressive season as well. The 28-year-old from Colorado remains a force every time she is in the start gate. Mikaela's trail of success is highlighted by these remarkable milestones. In 2012, she won her first World Cup at the age of 17. She won gold in the women's slalom at the 2014 Sochi Olympic Games. At 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics, she won the giant slalom, earned silver in the combined. 2019, achieved a single-season record with her 17th World Cup win. 2022, she secured her 47th Slalom World Cup win, setting a new record for a single discipline. At Ouray in 2023, she broke Ingemar Stenmark's all-time World Cup wins record. And in Killington this season, she earned her 90th World Cup win and 55th in slalom. Let's take you now to Mount Tremblant. It hosted a World Cup event for the first time in 4 decades. And on Saturday, fighting the foggy conditions of the first run, Mikaela Shiffrin was sitting in 5th. And then for run 2, skied to 3rd overall to land on the podium. Italy's Federica Brignone had the top time in both runs and won the event to become the oldest winner of a giant slalom Women's World Cup at the age of 33. Petra Volhova and Shiffrin delivered the 2 fastest second runs, advancing 2 spots each to claim podium positions. Now, despite worsening conditions with heavy snowfall, poor visibility, and strong winds on day 2, Brignone was sitting in 6th after the first run, and in run 2, she skied to 1st, making a comeback to win the giant slalom. Shiffrin landed on the podium again in 3rd, just 39 hundredths of a second behind Brignone. It was her 41st World Cup giant slalom podium, which tied the U.S. record set by Ted Ligety. Now, in addition to a tie for the most career giant slalom podiums by an American, here's a look at where Shiffrin stacks up across all disciplines in women's ski racing. 143 podiums in all, just ahead of fellow American alpine legend Lindsey Vonn. Now, we already told you that skiers travel with a whole bunch of gear. Our guest last week, Peekaboo Street, said that she used to lug around a staggering 19 pairs of skis. Who knew? Expert packing skills, all part of what it takes to be among the best in the world. Next up, we'll be talking to the 2022 Olympic free ski gold medalist and expert in aerial maneuvers, Alex Hall, and his impressive results from last week, when we return to the Stifel Snow Show. A trailblazer in freestyle skiing, Alex Hall etched his name in history at the 2022 X Games, becoming the first male skier to make the podium in 3 disciplines during a single competition. Just a few weeks later, he won gold in slopestyle skiing at the Beijing Olympic Games. Welcome back to the Stifel Snow Show, where we will turn our attention to twin-tipped skis. Beijing appears to be a lucky place for Alex Hall, who was back on the podium last weekend at the Big Air World Cup. Despite challenging conditions in Beijing, he was the top qualifier and secured his position with an impressive right side double cork 900 bringback. During his first run in the final, Hall maintained his lead in the second run with a switch left tail butter 1440 opposite Japan, ultimately finishing first with an impressive score of 182 points over 2 runs. It was his second podium of the season after finishing 3rd at a slopestyle World Cup in November. He's currently the leader in the men's free ski World Cup points, and he's also a really nice guy because he is nice enough to join us today. Hello, Alex. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, so you won Olympic gold in Beijing. Can you talk about what it was like to be back in the city and being back on the podium last weekend, this time in Big Air?
It felt great. Yeah, last time I'd been in Beijing was for the Olympics and didn't really get to stay there and celebrate because we left like the day after slopestyle. So it felt good to go back, and I actually got a little unlucky in Big Air there for the Olympics. Didn't quite land my final jump, so it felt good to kind of get redemption on that setup over there.
Now, let's take you back here a few years. The world noticed for sure when you wore the shades to the Beijing Olympics opening ceremony. Can you tell us more about your personal style and kind of how it influences maybe your success on the slopes?
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, the whole slopestyle crew and I, we decided to wear shades at the opening ceremony just kind of as a joke. But yeah, I feel like as a person, I try not to take myself too serious, even in these big competitions. It's still all about having a good time and skiing with my friends. So by taking that approach, it just kind of keeps it lighthearted for me, and then it allows me to perform better without putting too much pressure on myself.
I like it. You're having fun. We're having fun watching you as well. So you've been all around the world competing, obviously. You've lived in Switzerland. You've lived in Alaska. Now you're in Park City. I understand you're multilingual. You have a superpower there. Can you explain how that maybe has helped you as you go around the world and how that has helped your teammates as well?
Yeah. So, I grew up in Switzerland most of my life. My mom's Italian, dad's American, but I speak German with my brother and my friends back home. So whenever we're traveling in Europe, I'm usually tour guide, so I'm helping everyone out with translating stuff, especially in Switzerland and Austria. And I think just growing up international background helps a lot with, I've been used to going around the world and being around international people my whole life. So nothing feels too foreign to me. I mean, a place like China is definitely pretty different, but it kind of keeps it a little more mellow when I'm on all my travels.
I'm curious, you've been to restaurants, I'm sure, everywhere you go. Your teammates are there with you. Do you ever help them out, telling them what they're about to order on the menu?
Yeah. I'm the team translator. It can get a little frustrating sometimes when it's like 15 of us. But I try and welcome the role as much as I can. We were just in Austria for a slopestyle World Cup as well. And none of the people at the restaurant and the hotel spoke any English. So I was team translator for a whole week, which was fun and kind of annoying, too.
Multi-jobs. I appreciate you keeping this interview all in English. That's what I need right now. We've heard a lot about your film, Magma. Can you talk about that, collaborating with your Stifel U.S. Freeski teammate, Hunter Hess, and what message that you're trying to share with this project that you're doing?
Yeah, so Hunter and I, we've been working with our friend Owen Dahlberg, who's a filmer, for a couple years here now, and we just love to make videos, hang out with each other. We're all best buds, so we travel all year round, and kind of decided we should start filming, documenting this stuff. And back in 2019, we made our first movie, and now we've just finished our third that just released online about a week ago, called Magma 3, and it just keeps the whole thing a little more lighthearted. I love the mix between competing half the season and then also trying to film as much as I can. So having that balance is what keeps skiing kind of interesting for me. And just like really what I love about skiing, and getting to do it with my best buds is kind of the cherry on top. So yeah, it's really been a blessing to travel around with Hunter and Owen the last couple of years.
I love it. All right, let's look into the future now, Alex. You've reached the pinnacle with slopestyle gold last year. How do you continue to evolve your skiing, and how do you challenge yourself going forward?
Yeah, I think from here on, it's just about exploring skiing in a new approach for me. I think in terms of a technical aspect, we've already pushed freestyle skiing so far, especially in big air, that these tricks and rotations are so large that they kind of can become like they feel similar in ways. So I've just been trying to explore a more creative avenue with my competitive skiing, especially big air slopestyle, having fun with that, and just kind of exploring a little more, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. And I think this season it's worked so far, which is awesome. And just continuing on that, because that's what keeps it fun for me. So if I keep doing the same tricks over and over again, it'll become stagnant. So just always pushing myself as a skier.
Yeah, staying motivated, continuing to push yourself. It's a unique quality that Alex Hall has. Alex, thanks so much for taking some time and talking to us, and good luck the rest of the way.
Appreciate it. Yeah, should be a great season. Thanks for having me.
U.S. ski and snowboard athletes are constantly pushing the boundaries of their sports, and Connecticut's Mac Forehand is no different. This past November, he pushed gravity to the side. He straight up ignored it. Set out to be the first to slide rail while completely upside down. That is amazing. Now, while forehand was breaking new ground on rails, Italian snowboarder Ian Matteoli was spinning into the history books. Check this out. Executing 6 flawless rotations to land the first ever front side 2160. Into your living room, over your head, and spinning seemingly forever. How about that? We'll be right back with more from the Stifel Snow Show. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Stifel Snow Show as we take a look back at last week's Alpine Skiing World Cup in Tremblant, Canada. Conditions were challenging due to heavy snow and an uneven surface. Minnesota's Paula Molson was sitting in 25th after the first run, delivered a strong performance, though, finishing in 15th place. While A.J. Hurt overcame tough conditions and skied to a personal best 9th place finish, securing her first top 10 performance and the best result of her World Cup career. Unfortunately, Mother Nature has been quite the party crasher this season. Challenging weather conditions in Colorado led to the cancellation of the Men's World Cup races in Beaver Creek last weekend. Not to worry, though, ski fans. The circuit returns to U.S. soil in early 2024. Weather was also an issue across the pond in Les Deux Alpes. Lindsay Jacobellis won both individual and mixed team gold at the Olympics in Beijing, earned a 6th place finish in her individual race here. Despite some scheduling adjustments, cold temperatures, and challenging visibility, Jacob Ellis and her teammate Jake Vetter navigated the demanding course in the mixed team event, securing a spot in the big final. Vetter crossed the line in fourth, while Jacob Ellis closed it out to ensure the U.S. had a spot on the podium. The U.S. para-snowboard team was in action as well at a World Cup bank slalom event in the Netherlands. Three-time Paralympic gold medalist Brenna Huckabee had two podium finishes in the combined SBLL1 and SBLL2 category. Noah Elliott won both bank slalom SBLL1 events on back-to-back days. Paralympian Mike Minor had a second-place finish in the SBUL event, and 2022 Paralympic bronze medalist Zach Miller was third in the SBLL2 event. Coming up next, we have a special guest in studio who is no stranger to the world of freestyle skiing, Olympian Trace Worthington. Stay with us for more of the Stifel Snow Show. The 2023-24 World Cup season for the Stifel U.S. freestyle ski team's moguls athletes started in Ruka, Finland. Jakara Anthony, the 25-year-old Olympic champion from Australia, won the event by 4.5 points. Liz Lemley and Olivia Giacchio secured an impressive 2-3 finish on the podium for the American women. This was the fourth World Cup podium appearance for both Lemley and Giacchio. The U.S. women had 6 athletes landing within the top 10 with a complete sweep of second through 5th place. Trace Worthington, NBC commentator and former American freestyle skiing sensation who had 37 World Cup wins in his decorated career, in 1995 became the world champion in both aerials and combined events, and the Olympian nice enough to join us right now. Trace, thanks for joining us here in studio.
This is great. Cool show.
All right, we have a lot to talk about here. Let's start with what we saw in Ruka from the Stifel U.S. moguls teams. What were your biggest takeaways from that?
I mean, the biggest takeaway is how about that women's moguls team right now, kicking off the season with 6 U.S. women in the top 10. I mean, I haven't seen that in a long time. I haven't seen that since about 2010 before the Olympic Games in Vancouver. So for that team, stacked with veterans and youngsters, I tell you what, teeing up to be a good Olympics in 2 years from now.
One of the most dominant teams we've seen in a long time, at least for the U.S.
Sure.
When we look at some of the most dominant athletes across all the snow sports, one name that comes to mind is Mikhail Kingsbury. But he's more of a veteran. He's now being pushed by the younger athletes. Can you talk about how he's continued to keep this dominance going even later in his career?
Nobody knows. I mean, everyone thinks he's not even human, that guy. I mean, he has been just a robot since 2011, when he just started sweeping the World Cups. He's won every single year. The only time he didn't win was when he was injured 1 year. But he's starting to get pushed a little bit. But he is the most decorated of all time. He is our Michaela Schifrin of mogul skiing.
Sure.
I mean, he's at that level, such a high level. But some of the young guys are coming on and pushing him a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of years.
Now, one of the highlights of the show last week for me was we showed Winter Vinecki executing triples in practice last week. Now she has done it in competition, just one of the handful of U.S. women to do that. You got to take me through this and how this is executed and how this is done in competition.
Yeah, I mean, triple flips for anybody, male or female, is big, right? I mean, you go from double flips to triple flips. We're talking 25 to 30 feet in the air with double flips. And for her to step it up now, like you said, a handful of women in the U.S. have ever even done triple back somersaults. But it is crazy how it looks when you're in the air. You come off a jump that is 14 feet tall. It has a 72-degree pitch on the end of it. As you can see right here, like in Ruka, Finland, this is one of her first triples she's done. This is a lay tuck full. So right there, she comes off the jump. That's her first flip. So now she's about 45 feet in the air. From apex to landing, she's looking down at the landing to make adjustments at that point. So her eyes right now are looking between her skis down to that landing. Then she does another flip. So that's flip number 2. And then she twists right here and she looks down at the landing, and to make those adjustments onto a landing that is 24 degrees with ice and snow and little balls of snow, it's really, really difficult. And for her to stomp that landing, it is really teeing her up for a nice couple years as well.
I would imagine the first couple of times you pull that off, your heart is pounding. My heart was pounding just watching that attempted. But working up to something like that and practicing something like that.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered this, too. It's like a lot of these athletes are based in Utah.
Yeah.
Not always snow in Utah. How do you practice some of these things in the summer or in warmer climates?
I mean, well, first of all, every triple that I did during my career, every single one, I was so nervous before I went down the in run. So props to Winter. But in the summertime, training into water. So artificial jumps, plastic surface, trying to refine the tricks before you take the tricks onto snow. So a lot of people in the sport that are new to the sport of freestyle aerials or moguls think, do they just go throw themselves off jumps on snow and sacrifice their bodies? The case is no. You actually work your way up, just like gymnastics when you see extra pads when they're trying new tricks, off the high bar, right? Extra pads, and then the pads get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then when you're ready to go on snow, you take it from water to snow, and the similarity is very tight.
Working your way up from water to snow. I feel like for some of us, we'd have to work our way up from nothing to water, too. My heart would be pumping even then, too.
Yeah.
Trace, offering your expertise on all these events, we really appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's take a look at what's coming up in snow sports on the networks of NBC. We will be back for another episode next Saturday on CNBC, and more action on the snow next week as Copper Mountain hosts halfpipe and big air competition. It's been great being with you today on the Stifel Snow Show. I'm Ahmed Fareed saying so long, but as you know, we'll be back very soon.